One drunk man is more intelligent than 3 women with PhDs. That's it. That's it. What's the crack? Welcome back to a grand video. You're probably wondering who's your man. You're watching Everything Weapons. You muppet. We got a diddly video for you today. What the fuck is that? He doesn't think he's actually gonna wear that, is he? That's Seamus. He's new to our unit. He's always pissed drunk full of pints.
Foggy June.
I long to see the boys of the old brigade. Dance, dance, wherever you may be. I am the lord of the dance, said he, and the lead.
Think you can stop what we do? I doubt it. We've got the energy, we'll tell you all about it.
But do you really want to fall apart?
They don't understand the things I say on Twitter. All my niggas, these niggas hot. It's so scary. You put it up
What's up guys, welcome back to another video. You're watching Everything Weapons. Today we're going to be discussing all about expanding Ireland's military. So the Irish Defence Forces, or Ogli Naharan in Gaelic, native Irish language, is about 7.7k active personnel right now currently, but this video will dive deep discussing realistically how would Ireland actually expand its armed forces, its special operations, special forces, every branch of the military. And if you guys didn't know, I'm personally Irish, so I'm a first generation Irish American, so this video means a lot to me. And we're gonna go the ins and outs of how would Ireland actually expand its military. Like, to give you an example, Ireland doesn't even have a single tank, bro. Not even one. Well, first we need actual patriots that care about the nation, that are nationalists, who want their sovereignty protected, and for more numbers for the military, basically. Better training and more funding, more money to actually expand its armored cars, its small arms, weapons, and everything all about that. So it's gonna be a fun one. Thank you very much. And before the video starts, guys, please drop a like. It helps me out a lot. Subscribe, especially if you are new. And this is a super fun video. I have a custom painted, this is kind of a Vietnam tiger stripe / zebra stripe hybrid paint camo job that I did. And this was especially fun. I did a little bit of chrome paint chipping, weathering on this AK. And I just have a really weird kind of custom foregrip on it as well. And this kit is just ridiculous. This is kind of just my Spec Ops Irish soldier. Really custom, ridiculous loadout. Kind of looks like a mercenary, but I have a ridiculous foliage ghillie helmet that I custom made here, just with a ballistic helmet and just some fake, this is just plastic fake foliage, obviously. You might have seen this in my previous video where it was like the all white snow getup. And then we just have a ridiculous chest rig here with a bunch of my custom smoke grenade props. These are separate videos if you want to learn how to make these prop replicas. And the back is even more ridiculous. We got C4 in the back here with the Milcore MGL grenade launcher with, I mean, you could do 6 in the launcher hold and then 6 on my back as well. Ghillie pants, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Type a comment if how cool you think this loadout kit is. I think it was a lot of fun to make, and this is just my own personal interpretation of what Irish Spec Ops could look like, right? I guess a very specific stealth operation, because I have ghillie and a bunch of black, so ideally this would be best for a nighttime mission. But enough yapping, let's get right into it, and yeah. Alright guys, so we're going to be talking about how will Irish Defense Forces actually improve and expand, and why is Irish military so weak, and what can we do to save Ireland from total destruction, eradication, and extinction caused by mass migration. So like I mentioned earlier, Ireland's defense forces, or Ogli na HÉireann, are about 7,700 active personnel, with ambitions for 11,500 for Ambition Level 2 military plan. So just like most of Europe being destroyed by mass invasion and destruction because of liberalism and allowing in way too many immigrants to our country, Ireland is gonna need mass deportations on such a mass scale. And if you want to be updated on how bad our situation is in Ireland, Tyler Oliveira, the YouTuber journalist with like 10 million subs just about, recently was there and made a fantastic video there along with another guy. So please definitely check out his video. It was really good, just documenting just how bad the situation is currently in Ireland with mass invasion of a bunch of people that just take advantage of our country. And it really comes down to, in Ireland, we must remove all of the corrupt politicians who are sellouts, unfortunately, and who just aren't nationalists and patriots. They would rather take a paycheck, and they're consumed by liberalism, and that's basically why we got here and why Ireland is so weak in terms of military. It is a neutral country. I just hope in my lifetime, it's a dream, it might not happen, that we break that neutrality and we become a strong sovereign military and nation. So what can you and me, what can we all do to actually help our situation? It's really bad and it's not looking good for the Irish race, and we're being exterminated in our own nation because of traitors and all of the foreigners. But we can hide your power level and make sure you get powerful, stay in school, get a super good job, become rich, get connected with your fellow Irish people. And I think this is the best strategy for Ireland. I'm not an accelerationist, I'm not a national socialist, I'm not anything like that. I just think that we need to hide our power level, become as powerful as we all can possibly be with wealth, and I think that way we will be able to slowly, hopefully, get politicians who actually care about our people and country into power. And yeah, patriots and nationalists must take back control, not only for all of Europe to save their native populations of each country, but Ireland must do this plan also. So get connected, make lots of friends, join any nationalist party that we have. I personally think there's way too many, and I think they just need to all merge and form, because they have such small differences and disagreements. That won't happen, but there's just too many parties. But just get connected with the nationalist party, I guess, that you like the most or that you identify the most with, and hopefully we can grow all of these parties. And personally, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a huge fan of Keith Woods. I think he's an excellent intellectual who is a really positive voice to help save Ireland, and he's the opposite of McGregor, who's just a sellout. I don't know, maybe McGregor cares a tiny bit, but let's be real here, like, he's not really trying his hardest. He's not funding nationalist parties or anything like that. And I should probably say that I don't think violence is ever the answer. So I don't actually think rioting and hatred and anger will actually help our situation. I think as Christians, as Catholics, I think we need to harness that hatred, anger, and convert it to just smart strategy like hiding power level, getting rich, getting good jobs, staying in school, being really good at a certain skill, a certain role in our society, and that way we can gain power if patriots become rich. So realistically, it's not likely at all that Ireland will drop its military neutrality, although I think it could happen if we get patriots in power to some degree, and luckily Ireland has allied countries like the Palestinians, the Iranians. We could get cheaper armored cars, weapons, tanks, small arms from these kind of ally countries. The issue is if Ireland became stronger militarily, England will be worried about it. Obviously, I hope that Irish and English just agree no more brother wars, and we need to help each other and have love for one another and realize that this generation is different, right? And we need to just preserve our unique peoples, our unique blood, our race, as well as our land from total invasion, destruction. Tyler Oliveira is a hero, man. His videos are so good. He makes tons of videos all over Europe, fighting off all of the pickpocket and the scammers, and he just puts a huge audience to the issue that Europe is being destroyed with mass migration. So we need as many deportations in Ireland as possible. Get them out. Auslander raus, right? Okay, well, this video is probably going to be taken down soon, so enjoy it while it's still up here on YouTube, right? But hopefully they don't take it down. So Ireland's 2026 budget reached a record 1.5 billion euros, which is unfortunately the lowest in the entire EU. However, the good news is that year by year, it's actually being more. So it's up significantly as opposed to 2022, only a few years ago. It was only 1.1 billion euros, as opposed to now it's close to 1.6. So the simplest way to answer why is Irish military so weak, it's because of its lack of funding, right? There's no money into it. All of our politicians, well, most of them do not care if our people become replaced and a minority in our own land. So if we get politicians that actually care that we're ethnically being cleansed and eradicated by a bunch of invaders that don't care about us, don't want to assimilate. I mean, it's not even about that. It's Irish must not go extinct. So the Ireland belongs to the Irish. And I believe the same for every single country. I think every single country should be for its own people. But you might say, because I'm a first-gen American, it's like, why am I making a video about Ireland? But my blood is Irish, right? And also my blood is American, because some of the foundings peoples were Irish, so America and Ireland have always been friends and have always been a symbiotic, positive relationship, luckily. And that's my stance. I would never want to put either over each other, right? But have always been allies, right? Americans have always helped Irish have always helped America, and that's just the way it's been. It's not like it's another country, right? So I'm very grateful to be an Irish American first gen. So an important and relevant thing to talk about is how Ireland and its weather for home defense, it's a very cold, wet country. Normally it's insanely windy, and the wind can be extremely ice cold sometimes. It just pierces through you. So that being a wet and cold country, for home defense, coats and ghillies are an advantage because they actually make the soldiers more warm, right? So that's a good thing that it's not a hot country, because hot countries for home defense, with their militaries, they're at a massive disadvantage there, because when you have all of your gear, all of your plate carriers on, it's very hot. If you guys have airsofted or just worn a full kit loadout before in a hot environment, right? It's insane. So that's going for them, for the Irish. And so Ireland should buy weapons, vehicles, and drones from cheaper alternative countries, but this, of course, would create a geopolitical nightmare. So it's safer for Irish to turn to close nearby countries, because not only that it's geopolitically safer and less extreme, but it's also closer. So the travel of getting new, or should I say older, retired, cheaper alternative weapons, small arms, vehicles, from the neighboring countries, right, of the UK, of France, Germany, nearby European countries. But I guess you could say, hypothetically, Ireland could buy weapons, vehicles, and even drones from countries like Iran, North Korea, Egypt, Syria, Palestine, and even like Turkey. But of course, this would create geopolitical nightmares, unfortunately. They could do it in secret, I guess you could say. A little black market action there, especially with like the drones they could acquire them from Ukraine or Iran, because they're really good at making them. So why should Ireland actually drop neutrality and all parties and create a broad ethno-nationalist and patriotic party that is Ireland first and prioritizes the native white Irish people and blood and race, and embrace military independence and mass deportations? Mothers should be awarded with the more children they have, and women should be entirely banned from police and fighting military positions. I think we can all agree on that. But what are some ways Ireland could improve its military size and capability? And how can Ireland improve its special forces? Is it possible for the Irish to slowly increase its military spending and funding? So Ireland's defense forces, Óglaigh na hÉireann, are small but professional, focused on sovereignty protection, aid to civil power, and international peacekeeping currently. But as of 2026, they have approximately almost 8,000 active personnel, and the force comprises the Army with 2 brigades, the Air Corps with no fighters and limited helicopters and maritime patrol aircraft, and naval service with patrol vessels only. Key gaps include air and maritime domain awareness, air defense, modern protected mobility and firepower for its land forces, cyber capabilities, and reserves strength. So the government is actively addressing these via the Commission of the Defense Forces recommendations, moving towards level of ambition 2, enhanced capability, and by 2028 with plans extending to 1.7 billion plus euros by 2030. So fortunately, it's going in a good direction with expanding its military right now, but not enough in my opinion. So Ireland maintains military neutrality, but participates in EU common security and defense policy, PESCO projects, and bilateral cooperation with the British and French. Public and political support for major militarization remains cautious, but the post-2022 security environment with the Ukraine war, hybrid threats to undersea cables, maritime infrastructure has driven incremental increases. Ways to improve overall military size and capability: Ireland can pursue targeted quality-focused growth rather than mass conscription, politically and culturally different. Priorities should emphasize technology, reserves, and domain awareness suited to an island nation. Here are practical phased approaches. So the first is personnel growth and retention, so the foundation for size. Accelerate recruitment to hit the just about 12,000 active target by 2028, already in effect in the government policy, thankfully, but it's like 12,000 is nothing. They need to raise that puppy, that number to like 100K, but improve pay and conditions, which is an ongoing process, thankfully, offer competitive benefits, targeted marketing to younger and tech-oriented demographics, and streamlined entry for specialists, including cyber engineering and maritime. And expanding Ireland's military would also create a bunch of jobs, which is another great thing for the country. And they also need to revitalize the reserve defense forces, which are currently well below establishment, better integration with permanent forces, single force concept, enhanced training incentives, employer support schemes, and a dedicated office of reserve affairs aim for 4,000 to 4,500 reserves as a force multiplier. And with personnel growth, they also need to develop a total defense or comprehensive security model inspired by Switzerland, Finland, and Sweden, the other neutral countries. This is if they stay neutral, where they can integrate civil society, critical infrastructure protection, and public resilience training without full conscription. And this leverages Ireland's strong civic culture costs effectively. Secondly, equipment modernization and capability gaps. So surveillance and awareness is the highest priority. They need to procure primary and coastal radar systems for a recognized air picture and recognized maritime picture. This addresses a major vulnerability for an island nation with extensive undersea cables and offshore assets. Air and maritime defense, short to medium-range air defenses systems, enhanced sonar, mine countermeasures, and patrol capabilities for the naval service, accelerate fleet renewal towards a balanced technology-enabled force, and the target is 9 to 12 modern vessels for the long-term plan. Let's talk about land domain. So continue procuring modern armored vehicles as in their best interest, French platforms, protected mobility, artillery, and anti-tank systems for better troop protection and firepower. Emerging domains, establish a fund joint cyber defense command, invest in counter-drone technology, electronic warfare, and unmanned systems. Leverage Ireland's tech sector for dual use innovation. And they also need to use EU mechanisms like PESCO, Safe Instrument, Joint Procurement for economies of scale and without NATO membership. Training, doctrine, and partnerships. So let's talk about they need to increase realistic high-intensity training and joint exercises with EU partners, the UK, and select NATO countries, bilateral where politically feasible. Develop doctrine for hybrid threats, infrastructure defense, and rapid response to sovereignty challenges, and enhance intelligence sharing via EU Common Intelligence Sharing Environment. So the structural and organizational reforms implement commission recommendations include new joint structures, information command elements, and capability development processes. Move towards LOA2 and eventually access LOA3 for conventional capabilities comparable to similar-sized European nations, requiring about 3 billion euros budget long-term. And Ireland must invest in mobility and fixed and rotary wing aircraft and self-sustainment for overseas and domestic operations. These steps build credible deterrence and resilience while respecting neutrality. So the process is already visible in budget growth, radar planning, armored vehicle procurements, and structural reforms. But this is the plan if you want to stay neutral, right? Improving Ireland's Special Forces, or Army Ranger Wing. So the Army Ranger Wing, if you didn't know, also called the ARW, soon to be renamed actually to Ireland Special Operations Force, is a small, highly regarded elite unit, historically only about 100 to 150 operators, handling green roles, reconnaissance, direct action, and black roles, including counterterrorism, hostage rescue, and domestic security. It already trains with top units like U.S. Green Berets, although I think they really need to grow their numbers. So the key improvement pathways aligned with commission and government plans, significant expansion of numbers, grow the force substantially to support a larger overall defense forces, and provide dedicated capability across domains. This is one of the biggest historical opportunities for the unit. The restructure into 3 task groups by 2028, so land, air, and maritime components, relocate air and maritime elements to appropriate bases like Casement, Aerodome, and Howe Bowline for better integration, dedicated infrastructure and support, complete the new €46 million purpose-built headquarters complex. At the Cura Phase 1 contract, already €17.65 million, develop organic aviation support like dedicated helicopters for insertion and extraction, and self-sustainment capabilities, enhanced equipment and technology, so they need to modernize with advanced optics, communications, night vision, breaching tools, drones, and UAVs for SOF use. So training and international cooperation, expand the already rigorous selection, and increase the joint training exchanges, develop specialized pipelines for air and maritime SOF skills, integration and funding, emd SOF more deeply into joint planning and operations, ring fence or increase dedicated funding within the overall defense budget to support growth without diluting the permanent force, professionalization, full transition to the IRL SOF branding and structure signals elevated status and attracts high caliber recruits. So these changes would transform the ARW to a small specialist unit into a more capable multi-domain special operations force while maintaining its elite standards. But is it possible for Ireland to slowly increase their military spending? Yes, it is not only possible, but it's already happening very slowly, thankfully, but not enough. Defense spending has risen from about €830 million in 2018 to just about 1.1 billion in 2022. And even increase a little bit to 1.5 billion in 2026. Which is an 11% increase that year alone and 35% increase since 2022, with capital funding at record levels, about €300 million in 2026, nearly €1 billion planned for 2028, and the government has committed to further increases towards LOA2 targets. The multi-year plans, like the National Development Plan allocations to 2030, provide predictability and allow steady growth without sudden shocks. Ireland's strong economy, high GDP per capita, means absolute increases can occur even if the GDP percentage rises modestly, and this avoids the political difficulty of sharp jumps. So strategies for continued slow, credible increases frame investments around sovereignty protection, maritime security, cyber resilience, and EU solidarity rather than alliance building. This maintains broad political and public support. And of course, a huge factor is if rich Irish people become more patriotic, they're going to be giving money, donations, funding, grants to its military. So we have a lot of rich Irish that don't give a damn about its military, and that's really sad. But they need to use incremental capability-tied targets to deliver specific radar and naval upgrades with transparent reporting to build confidence. They need to maximize value through EU joint procurement and PESCO projects, explore cost-effective models from other neutral and small states like Switzerland's military influenced total defense, high readiness per capita, Austria's conscript/professional mix, or pre-NATO Sweden and Finland's territorial focus. Ireland can adapt elements, especially reserves and civil preparedness, without conscription. Political management continue measured triple lock reforms if needed for operational flexibility, while reassuring neutrality advocates. And the Ukraine-driven shift in European security perceptions have created more space for pragmatic increases. But the challenges include completing domestic priorities like housing and health, vocal opposition to perceived militarization, and the need to maintain cross-party consensus. However, the trajectory since 2022 shows steady progress is achievable without abandoning neutrality. But the overall outlook, Ireland is already on a realistic incremental path of improved military focused on quality, technology, and key domain gaps rather than large standing forces by sustaining the LOA2 trajectory, expanding reserve forces and spec ops, prioritizing surveillance and air maritime capabilities, and, of course, leveraging EU tools. But this approach balances effectiveness with political and societal realities. But how would Ireland switch? And what would happen if this occurred? Does Ireland currently have lots of men also who want to join the military? And is nationalism and patriotism actually rising in Ireland right now within its native ethnic Irish people? And what countries would help Ireland the most if they started buying more guns and vehicles and tanks and aircraft? And what would be the cheapest options for Ireland? So we're going to go in depth to all of these decisions. So, how could Ireland actually switch from neutral to non-neutral? So a full shift, joining NATO, adopting EU mutual defense commitments, or formal military alignment would likely involve these steps. Legislative route first, reform or abolish the triple lock via the Dáil legislation, and this is already underway and does not automatically require a referendum. Major alliance membership like NATO or deeper EU defense almost certainly requires a constitutional amendment and referendum. Political consensus and public legitimacy would demand it for something as symbolically significant as ending neutrality. Article 29, protections and historical precedent, make bypassing the people politically risky. Political triggers, a changed security environment, cross-party agreement, or a new government. Public debate, white papers, and commission reports would precede it. The timeline is not imminent. Current moves are incremental, capable building while officially retaining neutrality, and full abandonment before 2030 is debated, but uncertain. What would happen if Ireland actually shifted? So on its domestic level, a polarizing national debate and likely referendum with strong attachment to neutrality in parts of society, increased defense spending, recruitment and retention drives, training changes, and possible conscription discussions, economic effects, defense industry and jobs would grow, but pressure on budgets and opportunity costs. Faster modernization for its military, better air and maritime surveillance, air defense, protected mobility, and potentially combat aircraft, and the shift from peace support and light forces to credible territorial defense and alliance. Personnel expansion towards commission targets, about the 12,000, and the international and geopolitical, so warmer relations would occur if Ireland dropped neutrality with EU and NATO members like America and the UK, with improved intelligence sharing and joint exercises. Russia and China would view it negatively, however, because of Ireland's Atlantic position and subsea cables matter. Ireland gains deterrence credibility, but loses its traditional honest broker peacekeeping image in some circles. Possible Article 5 style commitments or EU mutual assistance obligations. Overall, it would be a major strategic reorientation driven by Europe's changed security environment post-2022, but it would face domestic resistance. But does Ireland have lots of men who want to join the military? Applications are high, but actual recruitment and retention lag. In 2025, there were about
a little over 16,000 applications, which is up 20% year on year. Inductions have risen modestly, 708 in 2024 and targeting around 850 in 2026 this year. However, permanent defense force strength was just under 8,000 last year. Slight increase, but well below establishment targets. Persistent shortages across Army, like infantry and artillery. The Naval Service is critically under strength, and Air Corps technicians are needed very much right now. About 2,000 vacancies. Training capability limits how fast numbers can grow, and retention challenges like pay, conditions, housing, workload means inflows roughly match outflows in some periods. But nationalism and patriotism is rising very quickly, especially amongst its younger people, the Zoomers, the Alphas. Gen Z is based, and thankfully, because of all of the recent anti-immigration protests, we're seeing a shift amongst its younger people as they drop liberalism and selling out. So that's really good. And the youth really give me all of the hope within that issue there. So France already is the preferred bidder for the major armored fleet replacement project, which is 600 to 800 million euro for about 100 Scorpion vehicles. The United States, America, is approved Javelin anti-tank missile systems plan. So the Americans are giving the Irish Javelins, which is about a $46 million plan. So that's good. We're getting some Javelins there. Basically, is Ireland buying guns? Yes, they are. They're buying French armored vehicles, and we're getting helicopters. They're even talking about acquiring fighter jets, about 8 to 14, within the next 50 years, which is just insane. That's that long. But uncrewed systems would be most ideal, like man pads and stuff like that. But Ireland's defense spending remains very low, sadly, which is only 0.22 to 0.24% recently, compared with European averages. I guess the only good thing is that it's going up, right? So let's talk about some realistic options of equipment for Ireland to actually acquire. So some realistic options are the MOWAG Piranha 2. This vehicle and the likely sellers include Switzerland, Denmark, and Belgium, with the cost is about 300K to 1 million, depending on what weapons are on it. So modern enough for decades of service. The Patricia XA180, likely sellers Finland, Sweden, about 200K to 600K, depending on what's on it. It's reliable, excellent cold and wet climates. There's also the M113. Many NATO nations sell this, and the approximate cost is only 50K to 250K, extremely common and inexpensive troop transport option. And the Pander one from Austria and Belgium is only 300K to 800K, with good mobility and peacekeeping record. So Ireland already operates Piranha 3 APCs, making older Piranhas especially attractive because logistics and training would overlap. Tanks, so Ireland currently has not a single main battle tank, but if it ever chose to acquire them, good options would include the Leopard 1A5. Possible sources would include Belgium, Germany, Brazil, and even other nations, with its cost being only 300K to 1 million, and probably the cheapest capable Western MBT, main battle tank. Another option is the Leopard 2A4 from Germany, Finland, Spain, about 2 to 5 million, one of the best value modern tanks. And the M60A3 Patton, They could get this from Greece, Turkey, or even Taiwan, and it's only about 500K to 1.5 mil, large worldwide support base. The AMX 30 is another great option of tank. They could get this from France or Spain. It's very inexpensive and aging design, but simple to operate. So ideally, it would make the most sense if the Irish acquire aging and older, cheaper options of weapons and vehicles, right? So for Ireland, armored vehicles would likely provide more value than tanks due to its terrain, infrastructure, and defense priorities. With all of its buildings and hills, armored cars just work better there for home defense. So they need more hand grenades, I think, more frag grenades. So the M67 style, the unit price for those range roughly from $25 to $75 each in common small quantity pricing, but the contract lot bulk pricing is only $15 to $40 each when bought in large production lots and multi-year contracts. An example is the historical DoD contract line items and vendor quotes commonly show mid $20 per M67's hand grenades in recent years. Small arms. So the Taurus G3 is a full-size pistol handgun with its price only at $250 to $280, but even cheaper when purchased in bulk by countries, governments, so possibly $100 or even less each. So this is a 4-inch barrel, full-size pistol, very cheap, striker fired, widely considered an exceptional value, and it offers modern ergonomics, a generous magazine capability, and an excellent trigger. So the Taurus G3 full-size pistol would be the cheapest option for Ireland. Let's talk snipers. So for a true military contracted precision sniper weapon, the Daewoo K-14 stands out as one of the cheapest ever produced for a national army, explicitly demanded by the Republic of Korea Armed Forces to cost just $2,800 per rifle. In comparison, standard Western military sniper systems like the Accuracy International Arctic Warfare routinely cost between $7,000 and $13,000 or more without optics. But the Daewoo K-14 fires the .308 Winchester and is a purpose-built military bolt-action rifle designed to offer basic sniper capabilities at a fraction of the cost and its global counterparts. So this would be Ireland's best, cheapest sniper that they could acquire. Let's talk about ARs. So the best affordable acquisition of assault rifle for Ireland would be the AKM. So the AKM is one of the most widely produced rifles in history, known for its simple design and durability. While it is impossible to give an exact number due to illicit manufacturing and vast global distribution, experts estimate there are well over 10 million genuine Soviet-made AKM rifles and tens of millions more licensed and unlicensed copies worldwide. And it's been made since 1959, with newer copies made everywhere all the time, and the Chinese Type 56 or Norwinko copies, historically the cheapest option for bulk state procurement. When purchased in massive military quantities directly from state factories, they can drop to only $150 or $200 per unit. So the AKM is the modernized stamped steel variant of the original AK-47, and I think this would just be the best assault rifle for Ireland to buy. It's the most common, it's the cheapest. They could go to the Chinese or other countries that make it, so I think this just makes the most sense for the AKM to become Ireland's standard assault rifle, just because of how lack of funding they have, right? They don't have money, so this is about the cheapest or the best options. So other assault rifle options include the Colt Canada C7, the Steyr AUG AUG, the Heckler & Koch G36, or the FN Minimi, the H&K M G4, or the Carl Gustaf would be the best M4. Rocket launcher would be ideal because it's just the cheapest, and most of those I just listed are very cheap, affordable options as they've been mass produced, and many European militaries are transitioning to newer rifles, creating opportunities for Ireland to purchase surplus equipment and all of those weapons that I just listed. Other options for Ireland is just getting more H&K G3s, a 1950s era 7.62 battle rifle that has been produced in large numbers. Many countries have replaced it with newer rifles, leaving surplus stocks available for the Irish for the HK G3. So getting more of those would be another great option, as there's so many G3s in the world. Let's talk about aircraft. So trainers and light attack. So the Pilatus PC-9, the Pilatus PC-21, and the Beechcraft T-6 Texan II, along with the Aero L-39 Albatros, which is a Cold War era jet trainer used by many air forces. Retired examples have often been available at relatively low acquisition costs compared with modern military jets, though operating costs are still significant. So those would be very good trainer and light aircrafts to acquire. Transport, so the Saab 340, the C-27J Spartan, and the CASA C-295 would be very affordable, cheap transport options. Fighters, if Ireland ever established one, the Saab Jazz 39 Gripen CD is a used aircraft, could offer relatively low operating costs if they acquire them used. And along with used F-16 fighter Falcon jet aircrafts from European operators, and even older Dassault Mirage 2000 aircraft fighters, a small fleet of 8 to 12 used Gripens would likely be the most economic option if Ireland ever chose to develop an air defense capability with jet fighters. Helicopters, affordable surplus helis and choppers include the UH-60 Blackhawk, the Bell 412, the Airbus AS532 Cougar, and the Leonardo AW139. Ireland already operates these, so that would be most ideal because the training would overlap and they wouldn't have to train a new helicopter. So let's talk coastal defense. So for an island nation, maritime capabilities often provide greater defense value than tanks. Used offshore patrol vessels from friendly European navies, truck-mounted coastal surveillance radars, and additional maritime patrol aircraft such as the CASA CN-235 would be nice. Most realistic overall package. So if Ireland had a modest budget to expand its military through purchases from friendly allies, a practical package might include 60 to 100 used 8x8 APCs like the Piranha 2s or the Patricia XA-180s, 20 to 40 M113s for engineering, ambulance, and support combat roles, as they're a very cheap, common troop transport. Modern surplus rifles and machine guns from the European allies or even the Middle East would be better, and China. 2 to 4 additional transport aircrafts like the C-295 or the C-27J. 4 to 8 utility helicopters, enhanced coastal surveillance and patrol assets, and perhaps even spending some money on some drones and anti-drone technology. If they get that from the Ukrainians and Iranians, that would be most ideal and cheap, I think. But such a package like this would strengthen mobility, peacekeeping, disaster response, and territorial defense while keeping acquisition and operating costs significantly lower than buying entirely new equipment.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. I poured my heart and soul into this video, and check out my older content on the channel. Tons of videos to binge watch, everything military related. I do a lot of weapon and military news along with war stories as well. So check out the old stuff. And if you're new, subscribe. Make sure you ring the bell. That way you don't miss any video I post in the future. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. All right, lads, that's about it. This video is tons of fun to make. Make sure you take a look down at that yoke down there, that little subscribe button and then like button. Make sure you smash that. One drunk man is more intelligent than 3 foids with PhDs. That's it. That's it.